Get me the Accidents Investigation Branch, Chief Inspector. Come in. Make it as soon as possible.
Want to see me, sir?
Oh, yes, sit down, Milden.
Thanks, sir.
Just one moment. Your call's to the accident branch, sir. You're through.
Air Commodore Benson. Oh, good morning, sir. Wing Commander Stanfield, 733 Squadron speaking. I expect you got my signal about this morning's crash. As you know, it's the second we've had this week, and I'm rather worried about them. I'd be glad if you could spare Wakefield to come over and investigate this one, too.
Yes, I'd already decided to have him deal with this case. He's out at the moment, but when he comes in, I'm sending him over straight away.
Right, sir. Thanks. Goodbye. See, now, what did I want you for? Oh, yes, I signed your leave chit. The adjutant has it. I'm afraid we can't make it more than 10 days this time. We're going to be really busy.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks, sir.
I take it you'll be going to my place to see Joan. I wonder if you'd be good enough to give her this parcel. You might remind her that I'm her father and not her sugar daddy.
Yes, certainly. Oh, by the way, sir, are the rest of my crew getting leave too?
Yes, you're all going.
Oh, thank you, sir. Then I'll collect some operational leave petrol and give the boys a lift to town.
Well, make the most of your leave, and don't go and kill yourself in that car of yours.
Say, we're flying pretty low this morning, aren't we?
You should talk. I bet you don't even know where we are.
Okay, perhaps I don't. But prithee, stop at yon ancient hostelry just ahead, sire, where we can get a pinpoint, a pint...
Yes, yes, quite.
Bears, fellas?
Yes, please.
4 bitters, please. Oh, and can you tell us where we are?
A little Mollingford, sir.
I still don't know where we are, but I know where I shall be for the next 10 days. I'm going up to town. I booked a room at the Piccadilly Palace.
I hope Doc will fix you up with some sick leave when you get back. You'll need it.
I hope.
Cheers.
Oh, Jock, I suppose you'll be going over the border to see the Bonnie Bairns.
I sure am. I'll be heading north just as fast as my horse can take it.
Clark, what have you got lined up?
Well, for Pete's sake, he's only been married 5 minutes. What do you think he'd be doing?
Come on, boys, drink up.
We all know what Johnny's gonna do. He's chasing the Windco's daughter. Hey, Johnny, I bet you a dollar you're gonna lose your nerve again this time.
The trouble is she might say no, and I'd hate that to happen.
If that chap doesn't pop the question this time, I have to put him on a charge.
What you got there? Give it to me. Come on. John! How'd you get here? Why didn't you let me know? Oh, I'm glad you didn't. It's such a lovely surprise. Let me look at you. Can't believe my eyes. Oh, Johnny, how long have you got?
10 days.
Grand. How are you?
Fine.
Me too. And how's Daddy?
He's very fit.
And Robin?
I'm afraid Robin had it this morning. He dived straight into the deck and they were all killed.
Johnny.
Lord knows what caused it. Your friend Wakefield's going to investigate.
Thank heavens you're here. Come on. We've only got 10 days. We better make the most of it.
Well, if you understand that, you've got all the information I can give you. Here's the place on the map.
It's near the airfield.
That's right. Here's a copy of the signal.
And
And there are the files of the previous crash.
that seems to be quite clear, sir. By the way, do you mind if I take along Flying Officer Taylor? Remember the officer with the gammy leg who's just joined us for investigation duties? He seems very keen.
Yes, of course. Get along there as quickly as you can.
Right, sir. As I told you, it's the second Marlborough this week. We've got to solve it today, if possible, or there may be more. Here's my report on the first crash. Look at it. Aircraft took off normally, climbed normally, flew normally, and for no apparent reason dived into the ground. Everybody killed. The same thing appears to have happened this morning. The annoying part was that when I got to the spot, the policeman gave me a piece of the rear spar of the tailplane, which some man had picked up. But apparently the man couldn't remember where he'd found it. Might have been very valuable if I'd known just where it had fallen. As it is, while I still have my suspicions, I've got nothing conclusive. Now, the point is, had that man been sensible and left the bit where he found it, it might have yielded all that I wanted to know, and so have prevented this morning's crash. Let's see, we passed the spot on the way to the airfield. We'll stop and have a look at the crash before we call on the wing commander. It's as well to get to these places as soon as possible.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Corporal.
Thank you, sir.
Has there been any interference with the aircraft?
Not since I've been here, sir. But before I arrived, there were several people clambering over the wreckage.
There you are again. It happens every time. The public seem to regard a crash as a legitimate chance for climbing over a plane and souvenir hunting, when even by walking within 100 yards, they may destroy a vital piece of evidence that would solve the problem. Unless anyone can actually help in rescuing the crew, he should keep right away, and keep everybody else away too. And it isn't only the public that's to blame either. You may be surprised to know, but on one occasion we thought a plane had been brought down by enemy action, because there were bullet holes in the airframe. We discovered afterwards that 2 sentries, bound off with a dull guard, had let their rifles off into the plane, just for the fun of it.
Yes, I can see the sort of thing we're up against.
Remind me to tell Mrs. Stanfield that her daughter's becoming very forward. But I like it. Well, darling, here's to my latest car. Incidentally, the owner told me to tell you that he adores you.
Of course, Johnny, you never could devote all your affections to one person. I suppose I'll now be taking second place to the car.
That's just where you're wrong. There's only one thing I want in the whole world, and that's...
Right, lady, sir?
How right he is! But still, that doesn't help me. It's difficult to explain what I mean, but what I'm trying to say is... Darling! It's true, then! Waiter, the champagne!
Coming, sir.
I've been living for this moment, Johnny. I can hardly believe it.
And I've had this for months.
You cheat. How you like keeping me in suspense. I love it, too.
Judging from these reports and other details, it seems we've nothing definite to go on.
Nothing definite at all, sir. Several bits of the aircraft are missing. One of the pieces that I particularly wanted had actually been removed. So once again, although I have an idea or two, the evidence is very slender.
Well, both these cases seem to have one common feature. Failure of elevator control. We know it's not the cables, they're intact. So it's imperative that we find that missing portion from the rear spar of the tailplane. We must search until it's found.
Just think, we've been married 4 months, and I've only washed up 6 times.
Well, you've made up for it in other ways.
Yes.
En la tierra cubana, de la rumba a la cuna, yo contigo quisiera por siempre vivir. Ay, mi linda morena, vámonos para Cuba.
Boy, if you could only cook.
Johnny, you are a fool.
Sir, may I have permission to ask your permission to marry your daughter? Oh, that's not much good, is it?
Not very.
Look, what about this, the more confidential angle? I say, sir, While I was on leave, Joan and I, we...
Oh, but we didn't. Okay?
Yes, fine. Come in. Oh, hello, Milton. Sit down. So we had a good lead.
Fine, thank you, sir.
Look, I know you've only been back for a few hours, but I wonder if you'd mind going on a trip. It's very special. We'll get all the details from the ops room. It's a 3-aircraft sortie. Takeoff 14:30, target area 15:30. That's a lot, I think.
Oh, excuse me, sir. I didn't want to mention it now, but as I am going out on this raid, I'd like to have your permission to marry Joan. Good heavens, sir, I've said it.
Of course, my boy. Joan phoned me a week ago.
Navigator calling pilot. We're dead on track. Should be over target in 2 minutes.
Good old Shorty, dead on ETA. Stand by, boys. Keep your eyes skinned. We're running on target.
This should be over the target now. I want you and the other 2 crews who are standing by to take off as quickly as possible if anything goes wrong. With Milden on the job, I don't think anything will.
Boy, what a show! Bet Jerry's still wondering what hit him.
Lucky Johnny again. Must have been their day off. Not a shot fired.
What's the matter, old thing? You taking avoiding action?
What's the matter now?
Something's gone wrong. Shorty, come give me a hand. The stick's jammed.
Where's the engineer officer?
I say.
Oh, run away and play.
I beg your pardon.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were someone else.
May I have a word with you? Official business, of course. It's about this crash. Did you see it?
Well, I heard it.
Any luck?
Yes, I had a chat with the land girl.
Oh, did you get anything out of her? Relating to the accident, I mean.
Yes, she heard the crash, but when she got there, she found some children playing around it. So I suppose I'd better get along to school.
It's incredible. It's the 3rd time a piece of spar with a hinge bracket has been lost. We must find the outer hinge. Yes. I'll see the pilot as soon as I can. You cut along to the school and the police station. And book a couple of rooms at the Crown. I'll see you there later.
Quiet, children. The officer from the RAF has something to say to you.
Well, children, I suppose most of you have been down to see the plane that crashed yesterday. Now, hands up any boy or girl who's been up near the crashed plane.
Now, children, hands up anyone who's seen the crash. No one's going to be cross with you.
Hands up any of you who's taken some bit from the plane. That's better. Now bring them over to me, will you? Is this all you have? Hasn't anyone else got any pieces? Well, they haven't brought me all I'd hoped to find, but thanks all the same. Perhaps you'd have a word with them about leaving planes alone. I'd be very grateful if you would. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Don't you worry about me, darling. At least I'm alive. Think what the other boys' folks must be feeling.
Don't know how they could stand it. Oh, Johnny, thank God you were saved.
I'm afraid I'm not much good to you now.
Darling, we're going to be married just as soon as you're well enough.
I'll have a talk to these witnesses right away. In the meantime, I'd be glad if you would organize a beating party. The Home Guard will probably help you out.
And we got to search for any pieces that looks as though they might have come off an aircraft.
That's right. I'm sorry to give you all this extra work, but time's an important factor, and lives depend on it.
We'll do our best, sir.
Hello, you two.
Hello.
Well, that's a fine mess to get yourself in, Johnny. Making more work for me, too.
Don't keep him too long, Charles. Goodbye, darling. See you tomorrow.
Right, bless you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Well, I won't keep you long, old man. As a matter of fact, I think I know all you can tell me already.
I'm afraid there isn't very much I do know.
Evening, sir.
Well,
Any luck, sir?
complete washout. Door blank everywhere. How'd you get on?
Not a thing.
Well, gentlemen, what can I get you?
I'll have a beer, sir, thank you.
A beer, another scotch, please.
I expect you two officers have come down to see that crash. A nasty business, that.
Yes, a very nasty business.
Talking about that crash, you should see the rabbit hutch that young Tom and one of his pals have made. The little rascals, they've taken a bit of that plane and they've used it to make a hinge for the door. But for the life of me, I don't know where he got the wire netting from.
Did I hear you say that your boy has a piece from that aircraft?
Yes, Governor. What's wrong with that?
There's a lot wrong with it. Well, my boy, if you knew how valuable this may be to us, I'm sure you never would have touched it. Perfect example of fatigue failure. Take a look. Just a simple little thing like that. Probably a faulty batch. Nobody's fault, but if we'd only known this after the first crash, we'd almost certainly been able to save the other two. We must go on to Defects Air Ministry at once.
Yes, well, this one's conclusive. And as the symptoms were precisely the same in the other cases, it's reasonable to assume the same cause. Will you check on all Marlborough aircraft immediately? I'm convinced the design's all right. And it's only a matter of inspecting all existing brackets. Right? Yes, I'm glad it's solved at last.
Yes, Mother, I know he might have been shot down by the enemy, but to think he's been crippled for life by his own countrymen.
order to prevent accidents, we must know why they happen. I am the Air Ministry Chief Inspector of Accidents, the real one. And this film has been made at my request in order to let the British public know the kind of thing that so often takes place. The story is not an exaggeration of the facts, and I hope it's made clear the sort of thing that might happen due to interference with wreckage of crashed aircraft. I'm sure nobody would intentionally add to the loss of lives of those in the services, yet, as this film has shown, that is exactly what's happening today. If you have been the witness of an accident, we would of course like to know what you saw. But unless you're certain that you can help in rescuing somebody, please keep away from a crash and keep others away, especially children.
When large numbers of people live together, each of us has to conform with a set of rules and regulations to the common good. Although we have a great deal of personal freedom, there are many ways in which we must order our behavior so that the greatest degree of convenience is enjoyed by all. We work regular hours, agreed between employer and employed. We can't work when and where we like. Because the roads are for the use of all, there are rules to be obeyed. Otherwise there'd be chaos. We obey signs, both mechanical and human. And the more alert we are to these instructions, the less likely are accidents to occur. In civilian life, it's left to each of us to realize our responsibilities and carry out the rules according to our individual sense of the common good. But when you move from civilian life into one of the three great fighting services of Britain, you must at once come under the discipline essential to any organized body of men. The discipline of the Royal Air Force, like that of the other services, extends to every man from the top to the bottom. Here is the delegation of authority. At the head is His Majesty the King. Supreme command is vested in the Air Council. This command is delegated by the Air Council to commands and groups at home and abroad. Each command is under the authority of an Air Officer Commander-in-Chief, who in turn is responsible for a number of groups. Here from the group, authority passes to the commanding officer in command of the station. He delegates some of his authority to the squadron commander. This in turn passes to the flight commander, and from the flight commander to the flight sergeant, and from him to the corporal, and from him possibly to you who were only a short time ago a civilian. Now you're destined for a different kind of life, and one that demands your utmost effort in discipline and enthusiasm. Whatever your ultimate rank, and whatever your ultimate job in the RAF, it's your duty to train your mind and your body to react immediately to instructions. Until you've achieved this, you will not be much good to the service. No longer a civilian, you have sworn your allegiance to the King and sworn to obey the commands of your superior officers. Now here is a flight sergeant. You can recognize his authority by the stripes on his sleeve. He gives the command, "Fall in," and the men obey. A part of your training is devoted to drill. It's important for you to know why you must go through with this drill, which, as you may say, has little to do with flying. But this drill is training your mind to act quickly, to respond to discipline, and to recognize authority when you see it. He gives another command, "Eyes right," because here is the flight sergeant's superior officer. Both he and his men recognize the authority of the officer. You recognize the flight sergeant by his rank. You recognize the officer by his holding the King's commission. You salute an officer, but you do not salute a non-commissioned officer, and yet you still obey his command. Drill is the training of the mind rather than the training of the body. The aim is to teach you to respond quickly to an order. Instinctively, you obey an order. Instinctively, you wait for the next. The quick and orderly movements of numbers of men can be obtained only by such immediate response to commands. If these men were not disciplined, chaos would follow the word of command. It would be impossible to control such an undisciplined body of men. Now here is a group moving in perfect formation. Each man knows what he is doing in relation to the others. The group can be moved quickly from place to place. But in this group, all apparently anxious to get to the same place, has no order or discipline, and will consequently take much longer to get where it wants. Discipline means more freedom of movement, more individual comfort, and more speed. From discipline comes the vital factor of good organization, what we call the team spirit, the art of collaboration of a number of people working together. Most of you have played games at some time, and you know how in football, for example, a side playing in cooperation will always make rings round a side playing as individuals. If your side is playing together as a team, each man knows what the other is doing, relies on him to do it, and such a side must be stronger than one made up of individuals, each relying only on himself. This teamwork, so important in games, is equally essential in the service. Without it, we should be disorganized and ineffective. And so discipline and teamwork are two essentials which you've all got to give. In civilian life, some of you may have continued to play games and take exercise, but many of you may not have had the time or the opportunity to keep yourselves in good physical condition. A part of your training will, therefore, be given to getting you fit and healthy and keeping you like that. This exercise of your muscles will also help to train your mind to accept orders and to respond to commands. Take a look at yourself now. Measure your muscles and your chest. And then take another look at yourself in 6 weeks' time, and you'll see what this training has done for you. This is a state of fitness that all of you will achieve soon if you cooperate with alertness and enthusiasm. Drill and physical training are going to give you that efficiency and keenness with which all your work must be carried out. There's no use for any casual approach to things when the safety of others and maybe yourself depend upon efficiency. Unless you're on your toes the whole time, you may easily overlook some vital detail resulting in serious injury and perhaps death to those who have placed their trust in your work. Remember that these aircraft are the product of hours of labor by skilled workmen. All over Britain and the Empire, thousands of men and women are working long hours to build them. Their care is your trust. They've been delivered to you in perfect condition, and it is your efficiency and your enthusiasm which will keep them like it. It's the discipline that comes from your drill and physical training that will give you this efficiency in your later work. It doesn't matter whatever course you're destined to go through, the initial drill is the foundation on which your efficiency is built. Here is something with which you will soon be familiar. A bombing squadron preparing for its takeoff. Many important things must be attended to before these aircraft can safely leave the ground. Upon the efficiency of each operation will depend the safety of the crew and the success of the flight. Each man has his own special duty to perform. He knows exactly what he must do. He does it without hesitation and without question, but with speed and reliability. Discipline and keenness is giving efficiency to the work. Every preparation is finished, everything is ready. The value of instant response to orders become even greater when you are in the air. A second's hesitation in carrying out an order, and you may cause the most serious disaster. An emergency may arise. Only instant obedience can avert mishap. You may be hundreds of miles from your home aerodrome, or you may be close to it. When a pilot finds that something has gone wrong, he must decide instantly whether a forced landing is necessary. Something has gone wrong here. He knows his instructions, and because his mind is disciplined, he will carry them out immediately. He knows, too, that each member of his crew awaits his orders because he is in command. They depend on him. The pilot must decide at once. This is a moment for which his training and discipline have prepared him. He knows that to save his aircraft and his crew, a forced landing cannot be avoided. He orders his wireless operator to signal back to the aerodrome that he is going to make a forced landing. The message is received. Discipline has taught all concerned the necessity for acting with coolness and efficiency under all circumstances, especially such an emergency as this. One engine not working properly, the forced landing is successfully made. But if the crew of the aircraft had not been disciplined, confusion, panic, and even disaster might have occurred. Both aircraft and crew are safe. The pilot in command knew his orders, and the crew obeyed too. Discipline has triumphed. Keep in your mind that you may soon be carrying out flights such as those with which this film ends. And if you are not flying yourself, you may be one of those upon whose efficiency and discipline depends the reputation of the Royal Air Force. And so in the weeks and months to come, when you have completed your training and are a pilot or a gunner or an observer or a fitter, you will know that your efficiency and your courage will be based on your fulfillment of discipline.
The object of this film is to show you, first of all, what happens when one is taken prisoner. Secondly, how one should conduct oneself. And thirdly, the consequences of disobedience to orders and procedure when in the hands of the enemy. You should remember that although a prisoner of war, you are still a British subject and under the orders of the Royal Air Force. Obedience to these orders and procedure means that, far from being of no further service to your country, on the contrary, you can continue to be of great service to your country and your comrades. The enemy hopes to obtain valuable information from every prisoner, and this film will show you some of the methods he employs, some of the tricks he uses to wheedle that information, which, if obtained, might prove disastrous both to your country and friends. All the information you should give in the event of falling into the enemy's hands is your name and rank or number. You should not, indeed you must not, converse with the enemy in any circumstances at all. And you should never discuss any military subject with your fellow prisoners. This film will show you how even a whispered conversation can give information of great value to the enemy. The sources of information and the methods employed by the enemy in this film are based on fact, having been compiled from the notes of officers and other ranks who were prisoners of war and escaped, or managed to get the information through. Now, you're all conversant with the procedure before taking off on an operational flight. At an Air Force station somewhere in England, the fellows on duty are just taking off. So I will introduce you to the characters in this film, whose adventures you will follow, and from whose experience I'm sure you will learn the lesson this film has to impart. Captain of the aircraft, Flight Lieutenant Wise. His friend, second pilot and navigator, Flying Officer North. The other two members of the crew, Sergeant Ray, the wireless operator, and Sergeant Keane, the gunner.
Well, now that everybody's all set, routes worked out, letters and colours of the day, MSIs, Met reports, wireless procedure, there's only one thing left. Turn out your pockets. Sergeant, get the envelopes. Now, take care you get rid of everything that might lead to identification. It's a damn nuisance, I know, but the smallest piece of paper may give information to the Hun. So make sure you've got nothing left in your pockets. All right, chaps. Get dressed up.
This sort of thing is the ordinary routine, and as a matter of fact, everybody returned undamaged from this show, excepting our friends Wise, North, Ray and Keane. They had a piece of bad luck. A Hun Archie caught them pretty squarely, and although Wise made a wizard landing, it was well within enemy territory.
Good. We have work to do. Stand it. The crew of the British bomber are now being searched. There are two officers. I think you had better entertain our guests.
Very good, sir. These will be returned to you in due course.
Thank you.
Ah, gentlemen, I am very glad for myself, but sorry for you that you are here. Heinrich, some drinks, please. Whiskey and soda.
Oh, no, please.
But you must join me in an aperitif, and then perhaps some lunch? You must be very hungry. Lieutenant, you were very successful in destroying your airplane. Those anthems take some burning.
Oh, ours wasn't that. It's very good of you, but my friend and I don't drink.
Oh, well, you eat, yeah?
Oh, yes, we eat.
Well, you must have some lunch with me. But first we have one or two little matters to discuss. So if you will follow me, please. Excuse Lieutenant Weiss.
You will excuse these formalities, Sergeant. We have found nothing on you. And you have made a very good job of destroying your machine, eh? It was very bad luck.
I'll say it was.
You had finished your job?
Sure.
Bombing?
Now listen, Fritz. I'm saying nothing.
Oh, so, but you must be thirsty. We have a little drink, eh?
Now you're talking.
Sergeant Muller, some English beer, eh?
What? You got English beer here?
Oh, yes, some supplies we obtained. Had you begged any of our fellows?
Well, I did. A Messerschmitt 110.
When was that?
Oh, last week.
In the same machine that you came down in, the Hudson?
Yes.
Ah, that type has 2 guns.
2 guns? 4.
It is all the luck of the game, as you say. Ah, the beer.
Ah, thank you.
Now you will
Thanks.
excuse. I'll see you later. Excuse. I'm sorry, but I must lock you in.
Not bad fellows, are they?
No, but don't you think you've been talking a bit too much?
Me? I've said nothing.
Well, you never know. We're an awful lot of devils. There's one thing we mustn't let them know, and that's where we've come from.
Of course not.
Found nothing on the prisoners, sir, except some loose money, their watches and pencils, all of which have been recorded. I found that in the lining of Sergeant Keene's jacket.
Does he know you found it?
No, sir, I concealed it from him.
Good. That'll do, Sergeant.
May I ask, what is this document?
Not exactly a document, Spielman. An omnibus ticket. See that hole? Well, that was punched at the name of the place where Keene boarded the omnibus. See? Northolt. As you may know, Northolt is an aerodrome. And he traveled as far as Harrow to meet his girl, probably. Well, Spielman, we know where our prisoners come from.
You'll pardon me, sir, but it doesn't sound a very valuable piece of information.
All information is valuable, Spielman. You'll see how I shall make use of it. Come in.
Right, Lieutenant Weiss, sir.
Good morning, Lieutenant. Congratulations on your safe landing.
Thank you, Captain.
Steinmetz, sir. Won't you be seated? You are Lieutenant Wise.
Flight Lieutenant Wise.
Flight Lieutenant Wise, from Northolt. 15th Squadron of the 51st Bomber Command. I believe my information is correct.
My information for you, sir, is my name, which is Wise, and my rank, which is Flight Lieutenant. I'm afraid I have nothing further to add.
My dear Wise, we have your complete record. We know everything. But of course, if you prefer to say nothing...
Insulting young swine, sir. I'd have beaten him up.
Restraint pays, Spielman. He acted quite properly. If I were in his place, I'd do the same. I can only hope that all our prisoners behave as well as this Britisher.
You're keeping Wise ahead of time?
Oh, so.
Mr. North, will you come with me, please?
Where's Flight Lieutenant Wise?
Oh, you will see him again later.
How can we get information if they won't speak?
I did get one piece of information.
Oh, what?
When I mentioned the station, Northolt, he said nothing but looked a lot. That confirms the information we got from Keene's bus ticket. Come in.
Flying Officer North, sir.
Oh, yes. Yes. Flying Officer North. You were stationed at Northolt. Flight Lieutenant Wise did say Northolt.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you have some very fine machines there, Mr. North. I should like to have seen the one you so opportunely destroyed. They tell me it will do 250.
No, they can do more than that, sir.
Really? What did you say was the number of your squadron?
I didn't mention my squadron.
Oh, Flight Lieutenant Wise saw no reason why I should not know the number of his squadron, seeing that I knew where he came from. I merely wondered whether you were in the same squadron as Lieutenant Wise.
Yes, we are in the same squadron.
You are a navigator, Mr. North.
Yes, sir.
Did you have much difficulty in finding your way?
Oh, no, this isn't my first trip.
Good flying conditions?
Not so bad. A bit bumpy over the channel, though.
Our fellows tell us you have been having quite good weather.
Plenty of low cloud, though.
Well, Mr. North, I think that is all. I assure you we will make your enforced stay here as comfortable as we can. By the way, we have another of your fellows here. Would you like to meet him?
Yes, that's very good of you.
Steinitz, introduce Mr. North to Mr. Summers.
Very good, sir. Please.
Thank you.
When are these blighters going to give us something to eat? I'm starving.
So am I.
I wish we could get out of here.
Excuse Mr. Summers. I have a friend in misfortune.
Oh, really?
This is Mr. North, Mr. Summers.
How are you?
How do you do? Gentlemen, excuse?
Certainly.
Well, old boy, what happened to you? Fight us or act?
No, matter of fact, a bit of Han Archie got us this morning.
Tough luck. I was shot down over Amiens. I was with Group Captain Painter's crowd. You know, old Teddy.
Lord, yes, he used to be my old CO.
Great scout, isn't he?
Rather.
Take a pew.
Oh, thanks, I will. Does he to treat you pretty well?
Oh, the Hun's not so bad, you know. After all, we treat their fellows pretty decently. I suppose they think they ought to do the same to us.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I'm waiting to go to some wretched hole near Berlin, I believe. You're bombers, aren't you?
Yes, Northolt.
Northolt. What squadron are you then?
16.
You know Frank Atkinson?
Atkinson?
Oh.
No, I never met him.
He was a great friend of mine. Well, have a cigarette, old boy, will you? I'm sorry I can't offer you a players. Have some ersatz.
Thanks very much. They took all my stuff from me in that little room, you know. And my message.
Gentlemen, excuse. With the compliments of the Mess President, Flying Officer North, will you lunch with us?
That's very nice of you. Thanks, I will. Excuse me.
Oh. Intelligence. Private Holstein speaking, sir.
You get the number of their squadron?
Yes, sir. The prisoner, North, said 16.
Oh, 16.
Yes, Captain.
Good. Keep him talking.
Do you think we've got any chance of escape?
Only one, I reckon, is if some of our fellows were to come over and bomb here. We might get away in the confusion.
Pretty poor chance of that.
Oh, I don't know so much.
What do you mean?
Well, I was talking to Fatty Banks a couple of days ago. You know Fatty. Well, he's just got his flight and been posted to the new bomber command. He was telling me that they're planning a big show with those American Rapier 20s.
Lucky blighter. I saw one the other day. Very grand. When's the show coming off? That is that first fine day. You know what sort of weather we've been having lately.
Where is this new command?
At the new aerodrome. It's just near us. Fatty wouldn't let on where it was. Said it was all hush-hush.
He probably didn't know. Proper sprucer, Fatty. Who's the CO?
Jock Sutherland. He's a group captain.
What, him? Why, my girl drives him. She's in the WAFs, you know. Well, I'm blowed. I had a row with her the other night about him.
We had a date at Harrow to go to the pictures. I ran like hell to catch the bus and got there on the tick of time and then had to wait 40 minutes for her.
What was her excuse?
She had to drive the CO, this Jock Sutherland, from Northolt to Northbridge.
And how many miles is that, I said? 6, she said. Oh, I said, it takes 45 minutes to drive from Northolt to Northbridge, 6 miles, and from Northbridge to Harrow, which is 8 miles.
Did the CO want to stop and look at the scenery for the rest of the time, I said. Ooh, I was wild.
What did she say?
Said I was jealous. Would you believe it? Me, jealous.
Good day, Captain Betzop. Now, what information have you obtained from the prisoners?
Just this, sir. Flight Lieutenant Wise, Flying Officer North, Sergeant Ray and Sergeant Keane, are members of the 16th Squadron of the Medium Bomber Command stationed at Northolt. Yes. And from interrogation, we have learnt that there is a new aerodrome recently commissioned in the vicinity of Northolt.
Good. Show me.
I will, sir. I have an ordnance map here, sir. Here is Northolt. Here is the town of Harrow. The new aerodrome lies 8 miles from Harrow and 6 from Northolt. I judge that it must be on this flat land here, sir, which is in line with these precise distances.
Excellent. Is it a bomber or fighter unit?
A bomber command, sir.
What type machine?
A new one. An American, a Rapier 20. And I've learned, sir, that this command is planning a large-scale raid.
Ah, that's important. You must find out when, Captain.
Yes, sir. If I may suggest it, sir, we should make immediate plans for a raid and catch the British before they take off.
Excellent suggestion. Report to me as soon as you know, sir.
Send in the English prisoner, Sergeant Keane.
Not bad grub, you know, Ray.
No, not bad. I wonder how long it's going to last, though. They seem to be lashing us up too well for my liking. It all looks a bit phony to me. I wonder when they're going to interrogate us. They always do, prisoners, you know.
Oh, well, they'll get nothing out of me.
Well, mind you don't tell them where we've come from or the number of our squadron or anything.
Trust me. I'll tell them we come from Harrogate and that I'm in the Coastal Command.
Oh, I wish it was over. I hate this hanging about.
You'll get plenty of that from now on.
So you've finished your dinner, eh? You like it?
Well, not so bad, Fritz. Not so good as our grub, but still.
Oh, well. The Commandant wants to see you. Not you, Yuki. Now for it.
What is your name, Sergeant?
Keane, sir. Number 85341.
You are the air gunner.
Yes, sir.
What is your unit, Sergeant Keane?
The 51st Squadron, sir. The 6th Bomber Command, Harrogate.
Harrogate? That is a new aerodrome.
Yes, sir.
You insolent young puppy! Do you think you can make a fool of me with your lies? Sergeant, when this interrogation is over, give this man 3 days solitary confinement, bread and water. Any more lies from you, you get a month. You understand, Sergeant, that I know everything. And unless you answer me truthfully, you'll get yourself into trouble. Very serious trouble. Now, I know that you and your companions belong to the 16th Squadron of the Medium Bomber Command, stationed at Northolt. I know quite a lot about you, Sergeant. Our spies in your country are everywhere. For instance, I know that before coming off on this flight, you went to the pictures last Saturday night in Harrow with your lady friend.
How did you know that, sir?
It is my business to know, and it is your duty to answer me truthfully. Now, there is a new aerodrome at Northbridge.
Well, I didn't know that, sir.
Maybe not, but I am telling you that your lady friend is employed there.
What? Well, she never said a word to me about it.
She may have said quite a lot to somebody else.
I don't believe that.
That is your concern. Now, Keane, at this new aerodrome, There are some new type bombers.
Yes, sir. They're fine. And they'll beat anything you've got.
That is a matter of opinion. Still, I am glad to know that you are now speaking the truth. You may cancel that 3-day sentence, Sergeant.
Yes, sir. Oh, thank you, sir.
Now, the machine you came down in was a Hudson. Well, we know what Hudsons are like. My people tell me the bomb sights are not so good.
They're not bad, sir. But the sight they've got on the Rapier 20, this American invention, is accurate up to 15,000 feet. And the pal of mine can get a 25-foot error. And it isn't a line, either.
Still, obviously a day bomber.
Rather, with a bomb sight like that.
What do you think of the Hun intelligence bloke?
Oh, not so bad. They tried to shoot me up once or twice, you know, but gave it up as a bad job.
Started pumping me about the weather. Seems keen to know all about it.
Oh, I could tell him what it's like now. We had a hell of a bumpy crossing. Low cloud and a 40-mile wind from the southwest. Of course, our Met fellows reckon this wave of low pressure will last another 2 or 3 days, and then we'll hope for a fine spell for a week.
Weather conditions won't affect us for some time.
No, I suppose not.
Gentlemen, excuse. Flying Officer North. You will come with me to your quarters now.
Is Flight Lieutenant Wise there?
You will see him again later.
All right, well, cheerio, Thomas.
Cheerio, North. See you later. Intelligence.
Hello, where's my pal, Keene?
You will see him later. The Commandant wishes to speak to you now.
Sergeant Ray, sir.
Yes, you are Sergeant Ray.
Yes, sir.
You are the radio operator.
Yes, sir.
16th Squadron Medium Bomber Command, Norfolk.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I've just been talking to Keene, your air gunner. He's a friend of yours.
I've known him for some time, sir.
Yes, but your chief friend is, Fatty Banks, isn't he?
Yes, sir, but how did you know that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, your friend Banks was taken prisoner less than an hour ago.
But that's impossible, sir. Why, they weren't due to start until...
Until when?
I don't know exactly, sir. But I know Fatty told me they weren't going to start until the weather had cleared.
Oh, you've been having bad weather over your way.
Yes, it's been very bad, sir.
Well, perhaps your friend's plane was on reconnaissance.
Maybe, sir, but I can't understand it. Fatty told me he was going to be in a big show.
Tell me, Captain, what reasons have you for stating that this British raid will take place on the 23rd?
In the first place, sir, we know from the information obtained from the prisoners that the new aerodrome at Northbridge is in full commission and that it has its full complement of Rapier 20s. We also know that the British have made every endeavor to keep the locality and the full strength of this new command as secret as possible, even from its own people. The prisoner raised friends. Let me see, what was his name? Ah, yes, Fatty Banks, whom I pretended had been taken prisoner, anticipated taking part in this show, as they call it, directly the weather allowed. From the prisoner North, we obtained as full a meteorological report as one could wish. In fact, he repeated to one of my men the meteorological report he had had before taking off. The present wedge of low pressure will have passed on the morning of the 22nd. Therefore, sir, on the morning of the 23rd, the raid will take place.
Yes, I see. I think you're right, Captain. So that means that we shall have to be there just a few hours earlier.
I am revealing no secret when I tell you that the German raid took place. Fortunately, the results were not quite as bad as might have been expected. But a number of good men lost their lives without even a chance of getting a smack at the enemy. The plans to carry out our raid had to be deferred, and we lost over 20 aircraft. I don't think I'm putting all the blame on Sergeant Keene, but as you will have observed, his overlooked bus ticket gave the German intelligence officer his first clue. You see, once the German knows where you come from, he's got a line to talk about. As two strangers meeting for the first time seek a subject of mutual interest, so the German intelligence officer looks for a clue. He found it from Keene's bus ticket, and he got something else too. Nothing pleases the intelligence more than to spring a piece of information on you suddenly and take you off your guard. Even Wise tripped up.
Yes, Flight Lieutenant Wise.
Flight Lieutenant Wise. Of Norfolk.
The reaction of Wise confirms the location of his unit. Although the German intelligence officer was unable to obtain the identity of their unit from either Wise or North, the next trick is the German impersonating the British officer. I cannot emphasize too strongly that you should never talk to any fellow prisoner unless you know him personally, and even then you should never discuss any military matters with him. The German played the British officer to perfection, even pretending to know mutual acquaintance.
You're bombers, aren't you?
From Northolt.
Northolt? What squadron are you then?
16.
Do you know Frank Atkinson?
Atkinson? No, I never met him.
Having learnt the identity of their unit and its location, the next item on the Hun agenda is the type of aircraft, performance, and armament. You remember the scene between the jolly German NCO and Keane?
Had you bagged any of our fellows?
Well, I did. A Messerschmitt 110.
When was that?
Oh, last week.
In the same machine you came down in? The
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
That has 2 guns.
2 guns? 4.
You will have noticed that the interrogating officer doesn't insult your intelligence. He knows quite well that no man of the Air Force would ever wittingly disclose anything he considered to be of vital importance to the enemy. But you will recall how the most secret information was obtained through idle chatter, overheard by means of a concealed microphone. The idle chatter of Ray and Keane told the Germans, 1, there was a new aerodrome near their own, 2, there was a new type bomber at the station, and 3, the rumor of an impending large-scale raid. When Ray and Keane were talking about Fatty Banks, they hadn't the slightest idea that their conversation was being overheard. Now, neither Ray nor Keane, nor indeed any of the prisoners, know when this show is coming off. But observe how the German intelligence piece this jigsaw puzzle together and find out this most vital piece of information. First, the GIO discovers the position of the new aerodrome through Ray and Keane's chatter. You remember Keane's annoyance because his girlfriend had kept him waiting.
And then had to wait 40 minutes for her.
What was her excuse?
She had to drive the CO, this Jock Sutherland chap, from Northolt to Northbridge. How many miles is that, I said. 6, she said. Oh, I said, it takes you 45 minutes to drive from Northolt to Northbridge, 6 miles, and from Northbridge to Harrow, which is 8 miles.
The German intelligence now has to find out when this large-scale operation is to take place, day or night. He knows there is a new type bomber. Is it a day bomber or a night bomber? You will recall how Keane was flabbergasted at the knowledge the German intelligence possessed. Bullied and punished because of his lying, and then, relieved by the cancellation of his punishment, entered into a friendly chatter about a new type day bomber.
You tell me the bomb sights are not so good.
They're not bad, sir. But the sight they've got on the Rapier 20, it's an American invention, is accurate up to 15,000 feet. And the pal of mine can get a 25-foot error. And it isn't a line either.
Obviously, day bombers.
So it will be a day operation, says the German intelligence. When is the next problem? He finds the answer from the lips of Ray and North. From Ray, who swallowed the lie about the capture of his friend, Fatty Banks.
As a matter of fact, your friend Banks was taken prisoner less than an hour ago.
But that's impossible, sir. Why, they weren't due to leave until...
Until when?
I don't know exactly, sir. But Fatty told me they weren't going to leave until the weather had cleared.
The German intelligence officer now wants a med report. He got it from North. You remember his conversation with Summers?
Started pumping me about the weather. Seems keen to know all about it.
Oh, I could have told him what it's like now. We'd a hell of a bumpy crossing. Low cloud and a 40-mile wind from the southwest. Of course, our Met fellows reckon that this wedge of low pressure will last another 2 or 3 days, and then we'll hope for a fine spell for a week.
The conclusion the German intelligence arrived at was an obvious one. And within the limits of a normal risk, they planned their raid to take place a few hours before our fellows started off, caught them on the ground. Of course, this is only one instance. It would take a full-length film to demonstrate all the methods the Hun employs. But before we end, should you be taken prisoner, all you have to do is to give your name, your rank, and your number. Don't say anything to anybody, even your closest friend, about Air Force, naval, or military matters. Don't be downhearted if captured. Opportunity for escape may present itself. Keep your eyes and ears open for any information which you think may be of value. should you succeed in escaping. And keep your mouth shut.
The object of this film is to show you how to obtain maximum proficiency as an air gunner. Natural gifts, like quickness of eye, deftness of hand, are very desirable attributes. But every air gunner can improve his efficiency and increase his accuracy by learning and practicing the drill routine which you will see on the screen. First of all, I will show you the customary procedure of air gunner members of a bomber operational crew. From the experience gained by operational air gunners over a long period, the drill and routine you will see subsequently in close-up scenes has been produced. For the moment, we will follow our operational air gunners and see what they do and the reason for the procedure. The man behind the guns is the air gunner, but the man behind the air gunner is the armourer. So we commence with a visit to the armoury. The armourer's responsibility is to see that the guns and turret are in first-class order, the ammunition tanks loaded with the correct ammunition for the operation. But the experienced air gunner leaves nothing to chance, and the usual practice is to pay a visit to the armoury before checking up the turrets a couple of hours previous to taking off. The experienced air gunner is not even satisfied with the 700. His alone is the final responsibility for the efficiency of his armament. To find out a slight error on the part of somebody else when 100 miles away from base is no satisfaction. The tail gunner is making his way aft, pausing to have a look at the recuperator, the key piece of the hydraulic system which provides power to operate a turret. The position of the air gunner in his turret tends to individual methods, some of which may be good, but a standard practice is just as essential in air gunnery as it is in naval gunnery. As our armament increases and new types are introduced, this standard procedure may vary from time to time. For the purpose of this film, the Fraser-Nash turret as fitted to Wellington aircraft is employed. As soon as he gets in the turret, the gunner checks his ammunition, both tanks of course. He knows the 700 states that all tanks are loaded, but, well, you can't be too certain. It wouldn't be the first time a gunner has found one tank empty. You will note that this gunner leaves his ammunition belt over the duct, which enables him to load up quicker than if he has to use the loading cable and pull it right up from the tank. He puts one round over the retaining pole, and proceeds to cock both his guns. He replaces his tools in the stowage. He then checks his reflector sight. In the nose turret, the same inspection is being carried out. This gunner also checks his ammunition to see that it is correct for the particular operation. It will be noticed that the nose gunner has left his ammunition down in the tanks, so he uses the arming cable to pull it up, threading it through the feed opening and down the duct. Note the absence of hurry or flurry. Loading is a simple operation when carried out slowly and deliberately. This is a good habit of mind, which with practice makes all movements accurate and sure. The arming cable is then attached to the open end of the links, and he makes certain that the hook is pointing the same way as the bullets. The rounds are then drawn up the duct into the feed opening, one round being placed over the retaining pole. The breech cover is closed, and the arming cable returned to its correct stowage. The lids of the ammunition tanks being replaced. While the gunners are in the turret, the ground crew are cleaning the perspex. Many a dead fly on the perspex has been mistaken for an aircraft. Perspex should be kept equally as clean as a good motor driver keeps his windscreen. After inspection and ensuring that fire and safe units are at safe, the air gunners leave their turrets, carefully closing their doors, and return to await their final instructions. The crew of an op bomber. One of the best examples of what is known as teamwork. Each man knows his job thoroughly and, what is more important, knows that every other member of the crew is an expert at his job. The success of the operation is the success of the crew, but at any moment one member may be called upon for an entirely individual effort. It might be the pilot, the wireless operator, the gunner. An aircrew is a team, yet circumstances so often demand the utmost from the individual. Especially is this true of the air gunner alone in his turret. Again, the tail gunner gives a look at the recuperator. Another good habit to acquire. The gunners of this crew are entering their turrets while the aircraft is on the ground. This rule applies when taking off from an aerodrome subject to enemy attack. When taking off from an aerodrome where enemy attack is unlikely, gunners take their position when the aircraft is airborne on the order from the captain. Now observe how the tail gunner gets in. Feet first, and without touching the elevator bar. This is important, as even a lightweight gunner resting momentarily on the elevator bar when the aircraft is airborne can cause a lot of trouble. Bombers are not made to loop. Once in your turret, plug in your intercom and call up pilot. I am receiving you, strength 9 over, replies pilot. So tail gunner closes his doors, left first, then right, bringing the bulkhead into closing position. The nose gunner swings into his turret. It looks easy, and is easy when you know the right way and practice it. His first operation is to plug in his intercom and test with the pilot. He then closes his turret doors, first left, then right, making quite sure they are locked by leaning back on them. He then does up his safety harness. Checks up his reflector sight for correct strength. Makes sure that the fire and safe unit is at safe. You'll remember on his original loading he only put one round over the retaining pole, so he cocks each gun twice. While the nose gunner is engaged in these operations, another member of the crew walks forward and closes the bulkhead door. The aircraft engines are running, thus providing power to turrets, which are tested by the gunners for rotation, elevation, and depression. The captain is then informed by both gunners that guns and turrets are okay. Meanwhile, the other members of the crew have been following the usual procedure before takeoff. The aircraft and the crew are now one complete, efficient unit, ready for all eventualities. Everything all set? Okay. Chocks away. And off she goes. Some hours later, we see the successful return of the aircraft and crew, the tail gunner receiving a slight bumping in his turret as the machine taxis across the ground. The ground crew, pleased to see their pigeon back, run forward and signal the aircraft into position and help the crew out. The second pilot walks forward to undo the bulkhead door for the nose gunner. While power from the engines is still available, the tail gunner centralizes his turret and pushes home the lock. He sees that his guns are left on safe. He sees his reflector sight is switched off, raises the breech cover and unloads, taking care not to let the ammunition slip back into the tanks by folding the belts outwards and backwards over the ammunition ducts. This operation is repeated with both guns. All this procedure takes place when the aircraft is airborne, if the base is not subject to attack. Otherwise, unloading, etc., is done when the aircraft has landed. He disconnects his intercom, undoes his safety belt, and vacates his turret and you will note that he carefully shuts his doors. The nose gunner, meanwhile, having performed the same operations, comes out of his turret and carefully shuts his doors behind him, collecting his parachute out of the stowage as he goes. You have seen how all these operations have been carried out. They all seem very simple and straightforward. We want you now to see this done in detail. There is a right way and a wrong way. Learn the right way. This will give you an efficiency which will save you seconds. And a few seconds mean a lot when you have only 1/10 of a second on the target. A drill which is instilled in the mind will, in the event of an emergency, become automatic. You just do the right thing without having to think. Here then is the drill. As you see them on the screen, try to remember their sequence. Open turret doors. Fold safety harness upwards and backwards over the ammunition tanks so that you don't sit on the harness when getting in. By means of the handrail and roof of the fuselage, swing into the turret feet first. Plug in intercom. Make sure that it is well home. Close turret doors, left first, then right. Bolt. Lean back and make certain they are locked. Do up safety belt. Test reflector sight, setting it for correct strength. Check ammunition by removing the lids from the tanks, inspecting the base of the rounds to make quite certain that the ammunition in both tanks is joined and that it is being fed from the rear tanks. Replace lids. Remove arming cable and loading toggle, check them and return to stowage. Adjust seat by winding the handles on both sides to suit your height and return handles to their stowed position. Unlock turret and test for rotation, depression and elevation. And check operation of firing gear. Load guns by pulling the rounds up into the feed opening with the arming cable. Detach the arming cable and press down the last link. Close the breech cover and return the arming cable to the proper stowage. Cock guns twice by inserting the toggle over the cocking stud and pulling back. Return the loading toggle to its proper stowage. Move the fire and safe unit to fire. Fire test burst. If airborne, over the sea. If on the ground and station orders permit, into the ground. Ensure that hand rotation is disengaged. Report guns OK to captain. This is the drill for vacating the turret. Whilst power is still available, slowly rotate the turret to the central position and engage locking plunger in the recess of the cam. Put fire and safe unit to safe. Switch off reflector sight. Unload guns by raising breech cover and pulling back cocking stud by means of loading toggle. Raise transporter and remove round from face of breech block. Depress rear sear release, thereby allowing breech block to fly forward. Whilst breech cover is raised, release end of belt from the retaining pawl. Press down transporter. Finally close breech cover. Disconnect intercom. Hold socket with left hand. Pull out jack with right, placing same in pocket. Undo safety belt. Open turret doors and, by gripping handrail in roof of fuselage, swing out of the turret and close and lock doors. Now let us see the routine carried out in actual practice. The ordeal of a first flight in a gun turret will be made much easier if you remember your gun turret drill. The time will come when you will make your first operational flight. In this sequence, you will observe the major points of interest and mistakes you are likely to make unless you have thoroughly learned your turret drill. There is a right and wrong way of doing everything. Learn the right way. Many drill sequences have been tried, and the one you have just seen has been proved to be the most efficient and practical. You can drill yourself by repeating over and over again the drill you have just seen. In this sequence, we persuaded a qualified air gunner to play the part of a trainee in order to demonstrate the many mistakes that can be made if the drill routine is forgotten. The old method for the rear gunner was to stow his parachute in the fuselage. Now you take it into the turret with you. The doors are shut as he arrives at his turret, as they should be. Obviously, he has learned how to swing into a rear turret without taking a rest on the elevator bar. And he is closing his doors in the correct sequence. The nose gunner stows his parachute in the proper stowage. Let us hope for the same efficiency as we had from the tail gunner, but apparently not. First of all, he has to open his doors. No, unlock them first. It's much easier. Now swing in. Not head first, idiot. Feet first. We don't mind you hurting yourself, but mind our turrets. Grip the handrail in the roof of the fuselage and swing in feet first. And he does it, trailing his intercom lead behind him. It's much better to keep it in your pocket until you plug in. Unless you're careful, you will find yourself getting flustered like this gunner. We know it's his first trip, but take it easy. Now watch this man. It is evident that he has not learned his drill thoroughly, but you can profit by his mistakes. He closed the doors incorrectly, but fortunately remembered to test them, thereby finding out his mistake in time. If he had not, this would have happened in flight, with very unpleasant consequences. Apart from icy cold, the damage might result in loss of life, and certainly the loss of a very good door. Some of the drill is remembered. The safety belt is done up, reflector sight is checked, and set to the correct strength for daylight conditions. Removing lids from tanks, he checks ammunition for supply and operation. And you observe he makes certain of both tanks. Next, he checks tools and returns them to stowage, and satisfies himself that the hand rotation is disengaged. He remembers turret rotation test, but has forgotten to unlock. Forcibly reminded, he unlocks and tests for rotation, elevation, and depression. In the scramble and confusion of getting into the turret, he has knocked his microphone switch to the on position, thereby causing considerable annoyance to other members of the aircrew and reducing the strength of the reception throughout the whole aircraft. He now proceeds to load his guns. Watch how, in his endeavour to do the job quickly, his movements are clumsy and jerky, and he has considerable difficulty in threading the arming cable down the duct. Removing the lid of the ammunition tank, he cannot remember automatically which way round the arming cable is to be positioned. He gets it right, the hook pointing the same way as the bullets, and proceeds to draw the belt up into the feedway. He has now got one round over the retaining pole. And replaces the arming cable in the correct stowage. He closes the breech cover and cocks the gun once. Good. He cocks the gun again. Good. He operates the trigger. Nothing happens. Of course, the gun won't fire with the fire and safe unit at safe. He cocks the gun again. Good. Puts the fire and safe unit onto fire. That's right. But you will notice that the breech cover has jumped open, therefore no feed will take place. So let's do it again, and we will do it correctly this time. Draw the rounds into the feedway, over the retaining pole. Close the breech cover. Replace the arming cable. Cock the guns once. Operate the trigger. Cock the guns again. Put the fire and safe unit onto fire, and the guns will now be ready for action. Now this is a mistake that will very successfully jam the feed of the gun. Always put your tools in the correct stowage. At last, he reports guns okay. And our air gunner is ready for the air, ready for anything that comes his way, but we hope it won't come this trip. Perhaps his score on the drogue will be better than his turret drill. We won't inquire too closely how the tail gunner got on, but everything appears to be okay. However, we all have to learn, and making mistakes is part of the process. But as we in the Air Force know, it is better and safer to make your mistakes on the ground. That is why I want to impress you with the importance of thoroughly learning your turret drill on the ground, so that, when in the air, you will be better qualified to learn other branches of the air gunner's job. The training crew return from their flight. The nose gunner centralizes and locks his turret while there is still power available. He raises his breech covers and loads his guns. Switches off his reflector sight. So far all is well. He has remembered his end-of-flight drill. But this is not the way to disconnect your intercom. Now let's do it again properly. Notice that he holds the socket in the one hand and pulls out the jack with the other. Neither is this the way to open turret doors, letting them swing violently back, probably causing serious damage. Another fault frequently found is the habit of treading heavily on the locking flange. If this practice is repeated a number of times, the locking flange becomes bent and the bolt will not engage in its socket. The tail gunner now leaves his turret, using the proper handles in the roof of the fuselage. And is careful to close and lock his turret doors and also the bulkhead door. Meanwhile, the nose gunner has closed and locked his turret doors, collected his parachute from the stowage, the end of his first training flight. Enough for one day. What you have seen is no exaggeration and shows you how vitally important it is that you should learn and thoroughly master your turret drill. So before we end this part of the film, we will go through the drill sequence once more. Visualize it and remember it in this order. 1. Open turret doors. 2. Fold back safety harness. 3. Grasp handrail and swing into turret. 4. Plug in intercom. 5. Close turret doors. Left, right, bolt. 6. Lean back. Make certain they are locked. 7. Do up safety belt. 8. Test reflector sight. 9. Check ammunition for type and stowage. 10. Remove tools, check, and return to stowage. Adjust seat, return handles to stowage. 12. Unlock turret. 13. Test rotation, depression, elevation, and firing gear. Load guns using arming cable. Detach. Press down transporter. Close breech cover and return arming cable to stowage. 15. Cock guns once. Release rear sear. Recock. Return loading toggle to stowage. Move fire and safe unit to fire. 16. Fire test burst. 17. Ensure hand rotation is disengaged. 18. Report guns OK to captain. This is the end of flight drill. 1. Slowly rotate turret to central position and engage locking plunger. 2. Put fire and safe unit to safe. 3. Switch off reflector sight. 4. Unload and clear guns. Five, disconnect intercom. 6, undo safety belt. 7, open turret doors. 8, grasp handrail and swing out of turret. 9, close and lock doors. The bolt and pole turret is power operated by an electric hydraulic system providing the air gunner with constant power for training and operating the guns under all conditions. Unlike the Fraser-Nash turret, most of the bolt and pole types cannot be armed when the aircraft is airborne. The arming is carried out on the ground by the armament staff. The purpose of this arming strap, which is being flaked into the ammunition box, is to provide a connection between one box and the other, so that as soon as this box is empty, the ammunition from the second box can be drawn up and refed to the guns. Care must be taken to flake the strap correctly so as to avoid stoppages when loading subsequent boxes. The ammunition must also be correctly flaked in order that the full quantity can be loaded into the box. The top end of the ammunition belt is then led through the rollers and the lid replaced. There are 4 boxes of ammunition, 1 for each gun. Loading the guns is done preferably by 2 men, 1 to fit the boxes and 1 to draw up the arming strap. Access to the hatch is obtained by the access hatch on the underside of the fuselage. Three boxes have already been fitted, and we will now follow the operation of fitting the 4th box, which is precisely the same as the other 3. The top of the ammunition belt is attached to the arming strap, which is already in position from the gun. As the ammunition box is raised into position, the second armourer draws the arming strap out from the ammunition chute. The ammunition box is then locked into position in the turret. The 4 boxes feed the 4 guns in this order. Bottom right box feeds top right gun. Top right box feeds bottom right gun. Top left box feeds bottom left gun. Bottom left box feeds top left gun. This is the band from the bottom right box which feeds the top right gun. And this is the band from the top right box which feeds the bottom right gun. These bags are fitted to collect the spent cartridge cases and links, each bag holding returns from 2 guns. The bags are attached to the turret by a spring plunger at the top and by leather straps and 2 turn buttons at the bottom. The second armourer then proceeds to draw up the ammunition belt by means of the arming strap, detaching the ammunition belt from the arming strap and fitting the first round over the retaining ball. During this operation, the belt must be firmly held or it will slip back down the chute and much time lost in threading through the new arming strap. The transporter is then put down and the breech cover closed, the armourer making sure that it is securely locked. The arming door is then closed and locked. The armourers having done their job, we will now follow the routine and procedure of an operational air gunner in a Defiant aircraft. The gunner stows his parachute on the right-hand side of the turret, although the latest instructions are for the parachute to be clipped onto one's harness. The correct method of entry into the turret is by grasping the vertical stay tubes. When the gunner seats himself, he makes sure that his feet are on the footrest. The turret doors are closed by operating ratchets on either side. Success with your firing in a 2-seater aircraft depends entirely upon the teamwork of gunner and pilot, and the strictest attention to every detail is vital. The experienced air gunner follows the routine as a matter of habit. Observe his actions. He plugs in intercom, ensures that free and engaged lever is in the engaged position. The sight switch is switched on and reflector sight tested. Firing switch is turned over to gunner and he proceeds to cock his 4 guns. You will observe that this experienced gunner's movements are deliberate and unhurried. Each gun is cocked once. He depresses the firing button on the control column and proceeds to cock his guns once more. After each gun is cocked, the fire and safe is put to fire and the guns are ready. Cocking toggle is replaced in stowage, and the retracting fairings lever is turned to the left and the main switch turned on. The turret is then rotated to the stowed forward position, ready to take off. At the end of each flight, the air gunner rotates his turret to the aft position which enables him to vacate the turret on landing. The turret can be rotated by hand, but the wise gunner rotates by power before engine is switched off by pilot. Before leaving the turret, all switches are switched off, fire and safe put to safe, intercom disconnected. Pilot and gunner leave the aircraft for the ground staff to refuel and rearm in readiness for the next operation. All this seems very simple and straightforward. So it is when you know how. Let us therefore take the whole routine and procedure stage by stage, so that we can drill it into our minds and thus gain efficiency. Follow every action and movement of this airman and try to remember them in their proper order. Arriving at the aircraft, the airman pulls down the step on the wing and the footrest from the side of the fuselage. Climbs onto the wing and places parachute in the stowage provided. As you may know, the position of an airman in his turret is not the most comfortable. It certainly is not an armchair seat, but he can adjust the seat for height so that every control is within easy reach. The height of the seat in relation to the reflector sight is important, and it should be adjusted so that one's cheek finds itself resting against the pad by just bending the body forward. The airman then climbs into the turret, grasping the vertical stay tubes to assist himself in. He places his feet on the footrests and closes the turret doors by operating the ratchet handles. Now this is the view of the panel from the airman's eye line. Its apparent complexity is simplified by a close-up description of each component and the part it plays in the routine before the airman reports, "Guns OK." He first plugs in the intercom. Then connects up the oxygen supply by plugging the oxygen plug into the bayonet socket on the left-hand side of the instrument panel and tests the flow by operating the regulator valve. In order to save oxygen, it should be turned off after testing. He makes sure that the free and engaged lever is in the engaged position. He checks his cocking toggle to see that it is there and replaces it in its holder. The spare bulbs for the reflector sight are examined and replaced in their sockets. He checks the radius of the cheek pad for free movement, switches on and tests reflector sight. He moves the firing switch to gunner. All 4 guns are then cocked once, although on the screen we are showing 1 gun only being cocked. And on depressing the firing button, the 4 guns are cocked again. And the fire and safe units put to fire. The guns are now ready. He next moves the fairings contraction lever aside and switches on the motor switch. By grasping the control column and armature switch lever, he is able to move the control column in all directions. The airman is thus assured that the turret is indeed rotating. Turret movements are tested under power. The airman also tests the high-speed movement by depressing this high-speed button whilst the turret is on the move. This high-speed movement is only intended for a quick change over from one direction to another. It does not improve the motor and should not be maintained for long periods. He makes sure that the hand rotation handle is available should power fail, and returns the handle to its proper stowage. He then power operates the turret into the forward stowed position, secures his safety strap, and reports readiness to the pilot. At the end of the flight, the following procedure is carried out. The airman switches off the motor switch, operates fairings control lever, puts fire and safe units to safe, switches off a firing switch, reflector sight switch, sight master switch, disconnects intercom, disconnects oxygen supply, unfastens safety belt, opens doors by pushing release handle forward, and vacates turret, taking parachute with him. Practice makes perfect, and the gunner you have just seen is proficient. Let us now take you in a bolt and pole turret for the first time. Discover how much you have learned and how much forgotten of bolt and pole drill. Not a good start off. He is trying to get in the turret the wrong way by grasping the doors. You will find it much easier by taking a grip on the vertical stay tubes. Now don't forget to place your feet on the foot rests, or you may get them badly injured when you start to rotate the turret. One thing no gunner ever forgets is to close his turret doors. For one thing, it becomes very drafty if you don't, and very few gunners ever forget to plug in their intercom. Our gunner also remembers to connect up the oxygen supply, and then turns his attention to the free and engaged lever, which is now in the engaged position. But you cannot check your sight until you have switched on your master sight switch. Now he can check his sight, which, satisfactory, he turns the firing switch to gunner. The word gunner reminds him that this is the time to cock guns. Each gun is cocked once. After the first cocking, the firing button on the control column is depressed. So far, so good. After all 4 guns have been cocked, the guns are cocked again. and fire and safe units of each gun put to fire. And I'm glad to observe that the cocking toggle is returned to its holder. But you can't power operate before switching on the motor switch. No, wait a moment. Too late. He's blown it. You see, he had forgotten to release the armoured switch on the control column before switching the motor switch on. And he has blown the fuse, as you saw. Incidentally, the gunner should always make sure that he has got spare fuses available. This matter rectified, the gunner can now operate the turret, which he proceeds to do, stowing guns in forward position, ready for the take-off. Safety strap secured. He reports guns OK to the pilot, and all is ready for the take-off of his first training flight. On the return of the aircraft, the drill routine is switch off the motor switch, operate free and engaged lever, put fire and safe units to safe. Switch off firing switch, reflector sight, sight master switch, disconnect oxygen supply and intercom. Unfasten safety strap, open doors by pushing release handle forward, and vacate turret. Remember the sequence of the drill you have seen before and after a flight, because by doing each thing in the correct order, you will avoid making mistakes which may have quite serious consequences. Mastery of drill will make you more than just efficient. It will give you a greater degree of confidence in your guns and in yourself.
Hurricanes come home. Our fighters land after a brisk but successful encounter with hit-and-run raiders. Here's a typical scene at one of our fighter bases between battles. These are some of the boys who've already blunted Hitler's air offensive. In due course, they'll stop it altogether. They take it easy between raids, and there's always plenty of sport to be had when there's no serious work to be done in the sky. When the alarm does come, not a second is lost.
Blue section only.
While the public takes shelter, our fighter pilots take off to destroy the enemy.